All right, JAG University, Kevin, talking about roofs and how important it is to understand roof updates and how that drives your property premium. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you climbed on a roof?
Never.
It's not part of the repertoire?
No, not necessarily unless I'm going to the pool. But even growing up, I mean, no one ever really went on our roof at the house or anything to check it out.
Well, I just think, and I say that jokingly because it's one of those things where, when's the last time you come on the roof? And I ask you that because the answer for me is never, right? And so many things when we talk about roofs has to do, especially when you're buying a new property, is understanding how old is the roof, right? When it was replaced, when was it updated, what type of update? But so many things and it makes a big factor when you're negotiating your renewal pricing, understanding those details. That information matters. It gives you leverage as a consumer, also helps us as an agent to really, fight for you on the underwriting side and get you the best pricing. But most people aren't really sure. You'd be surprised, right? They don't know when it was updated.
Yeah, and the first question we get asked by a property insurance company, whether homeowners or commercial, is when was the roof replaced? Every time. And if you don't have that answer, you're not going to get a quote or you're going to get something horrible.
It's always, I think it was 2006, 2007. When I bought the property, it was done without permits. I know that, and that kind of worked 20 years ago, but now the permitting process is a little more strict when it comes to that. But understanding that question gives you it's the most powerful question when negotiating your property insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. So when they price property insurance, they bring in factors like how old is it, how far it is from the water, what type of construction, and how old the roof is. Those are pretty much the biggest factors in determining a price, right? So if you can't answer one of those, which is the roof, now you have a giant question mark on your account. And no one's really going to want to, take a risk on an account like that.
No, and from, I guess this is even a bigger problem. Well, you would assume that the information is more upfront when you're buying a new property, but then you kind of have this catch-22 with inspectors. We've seen a lot of the age of the roof, right? The plus or minus, depending how you want to interpret that. My age is plus or minus 10 years. Insurance companies are going to ask more questions, right? I know a lot of times the inspectors want to be a little more friendly for you to be able to qualify for insurance. But understand, if you're buying that property and it's plus or minus, shingle roofs, right? About 10-year life expectancy, let's just say plus or minus, tiles about 25. Once you're getting up to that space, you better understand you're going to have to replace that pretty soon.
Yeah, and kind of the Miami way of doing it for so long was my roof got old, so now I'm going to wait for a claim to occur so I can file it and get a new one. Well, carriers are sort of catching up to that, and now what's happening is you're getting put on a depreciation schedule, or they'll make the roof actual cash value, or they'll put some sort of limit to kind of counteract that strategy, right? So now insurance companies are finding ways to kind of get around that little way of thinking where people think, okay, when it's time to replace the roof, I'll file a claim, which, insurance isn't meant for home maintenance. It's meant to protect your property.
No, and that's why I mentioned about getting on there. The maintenance side, especially from a roof perspective, it's, getting into hurricane season now. I think it's one of those things where you should get a roofer out there for a couple of reasons. Understanding if there's any potential damage, right? To mitigate that and replace those few, broken tiles.
Yeah.
Number two is I think everybody should know or get an idea of what your roof costs. Right? Back to the roof thing, then you can kind of make even a better decision on what deductible you're buying.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, right? Hurricane comes and people put a roof claim and they're surprised that their 5% deductible is $50,000, but the roof costs $30,000. Now you got to understand, you're saving money annually, right? But maybe you should have lowered your deductible to make a better decision on can you afford that roof out of pocket?
Exactly. So if you go back to our wind deductible, JAG University, there's some more details on the deductibles, but that's exactly right. So your deductible for wind and hail, hurricane, is most likely going to be what applies when your roof gets damaged. Probably would be a storm. So how much does your roof cost? How much is your deductible? What's your strategy on replacing it when the time comes? A lot of people will see that, hey, you know what? Maybe the difference between the deductible and the cost to replace my roof isn't that big.
Right.
It's not really worth waiting it out.
Sure.
I might as well go ahead, replace it, save money annually, and then I could even possibly consider a little bit of a higher deductible, considering I have a brand new roof on my property, maybe save some premium. It might actually financially be cheaper in the long run to just do that. So we're getting to a point in the market, in the insurance industry, where it's probably cheaper to just be proactive, maintain your property, prevent losses, prevent damage, than to just kind of wait around and see what happens.
And figure, yeah, well, a storm comes, I get a new roof. I mean, insurance companies talked about the depreciation schedule, right? Or maybe even with the lack of updates, throwing an actual cash value endorsement on the roof. You're right. The roof, your roof itself needs to be the most strategic play as a property owner.
Yeah.
From a proactive mitigating those damages, and then understanding your deductible, because waiting for a storm, that strategy that worked 20 years ago, it's kind of past.
Yeah. And then another thing too is all these homeowners carriers, if you renew, they're going to send an inspector out from the insurance company and they're going to take a look at your roof.
Right.
And if they see missing tiles or some little damage, maybe a hole or some signs of a leak, they're going to give you 30 days to repair it, or maybe they'll cancel you. Well, if you're in the middle of hurricane season, you have 30 days to replace a tile, you might get canceled. It's tough to get a roofer out in short notice, especially in South Florida, especially during hurricane season. And then if a storm happens to come during that 30-day time frame, everything gets pushed back.
Yeah, that's a worst case scenario.
Can you imagine getting canceled? A storm is coming because of a couple tiles. So really, it makes a lot of sense before hurricane season starts to get on your roof, look at this little damage before the roofers are in very high demand, fix it. Now you're less likely to have a claim, and you're less likely to have some sort of cancellation event that's going to leave you without coverage during a storm. You have to be proactive. But another thing I noticed, especially on the commercial side, is homeowners, you have to get a 4-point in a wind mitigation inspection to buy a property. It's pretty much always done unless the property is brand new. So you'll see the roof age, the condition, everything like that. But on commercial buildings, I can't tell you how many times I work on a new purchase for a commercial building, and they have no idea the last time the roof was replaced.
Right.
They'll say, oh, a couple years ago they did some patchwork, but that's not a roof replacement. So that makes it really hard to negotiate with insurance carriers and get you good rates. So I think that's something that people purchasing commercial properties should really make sure they get a firm idea on before moving forward, because it's going to have a huge effect on their premium.
The biggest. And by the way, to clarify, I'm not asking anybody to get on the roof. You should hire a roofing professional to get on there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get hurt, just to clarify that. Risk management.
Yeah, exactly.
But to clarify, really understand, and we're talking about roofs, but really any updates on your property. It's the proactive approach is what's going to help you save those dollars.
Absolutely. And we've talked about cyclical markets going into hard market. The reality is right now and for the foreseeable future, underwriters are going to look very closely at updates on older properties to even consider them. And if your plumbing, your wiring, your AC, and your roof, especially your roof, most importantly your roof, isn't updated and current, it's going to be very hard for you to get coverage and be very expensive.
Right.
So it's almost just it's an investment in your property that's going to save money on premiums. It's going to allow you to qualify for lower deductibles. It's going to avoid cancellation problems, and it's going to even help you get better payment when a claim does occur, because you're not going to be stuck in some depreciation schedule.
And you have it documented as well. Hey, know your property, know your updates, get informed. That's going to help you as an insured, and helps us as your agent get you better pricing.
Absolutely.